Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center's CEO Spotlight Series. I'm Landon Darrence. I'm the Vice President for Energy and Infrastructure at the Atlantic Council, and I'm excited to have a global dialogue today with two luminaries of the energy industry. Few industries provide real-time exposure to global events as they unfold, the intricacies of trade, or how consumers experience the real economy more so than the energy sector. So when we're afforded an opportunity to host an industry titan, we seize on it. When we're afforded the opportunity to host two, we clear the calendar and really lean in. So that is why it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage for a one-on-one dialogue today, our distinguished guest, Patrick Pouyanne, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of TotalEnergies, and Dr. Dan Yergin, Vice Chairman of S&P Global and Chairman of CERAWeek, amongst many awards, as well as being a award-winning author for the prize and other books as well. So from Iran to Venezuela, Trump tariffs to geopolitics of supply chains, there's no shortage of what we can cover today. We're excited for those joining online to be able to be a part of this global conversation, and we're very thankful for those in the room as well that join us today. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Dan Yergin for this conversation.
Thank you very much, Landon, and hello to everybody here, and hello to everybody who's following us on the web. It's a pleasure to be here with Patrick, who, in addition, of course, to being the CEO of TotalEnergies, is also one of the most thoughtful people in the world and most experienced looking at the world interaction of energy and geopolitics. And I think Landon set the topic there, Patrick. He said Iran, Venezuela, geopolitics, and tariffs.
Tough to begin.
So where should we start? Let's start about, not so long ago, the oil market was hovering around $60 a barrel. Suddenly it's much higher. What's going on? Is it Venezuela? Is it Iran? Or is it supply and demand?
I think, by the way, there is one common point between the Iran and Venezuela, I think, is that the President of the United States wants the price to go down. So he wants to open as many markets as possible, Venezuela crude oil, Iran crude oil, trying to convince OPEC as well to relinquish more oil. I think that the fundamentals of the market, there is still a growing demand, plus a little less than 1 million barrels of oil per day. And by the way, for the people who speak about peak oil, I don't see where it is. I see almost the 0.9% every year steadily because growing population, because better way of life in many emerging countries. So it's a sort of constant thing, except the year of COVID, but I think it's constant. So there's still demand. Then in front of that, we just went out of a cycle of 3-4 years at $100, $90, $80, so a lot of more investments, in particular here in the United States, in shale oil, quite vibrant industry. So of course, when you have more investments, more production, more supply, and then we go down to the cycle. That's very logic. I'm not surprised. I think at the same time, you have some geopolitical events in this market because honestly, fundamentals, we have planned our own budget for 2026 at $60 per barrel. We were planning to see not dramatically low, but lower than in 69 in 25.
We're now what, around 71 or
around 71 or something. So why? Because you have some geopolitical events. Right. I think you have there are some tensions, we don't know where this conflict with Iran could go, there's threats. You have also, by the way, I think more fundamentally, you had some perturbation, with the Russian, what happens in Kazakhstan outlet, there was 400,000 barrels per day, which was out of being exported through on the Black Sea. That's in this market, which is quite tense, this type of events have a direct impact. And then I think you have the sanctions against Russian oil, which are more strictly applied, I would say. We've seen my traders are telling me that they see 140, 150 million barrels of oil of Russian oil, which is stuck on the sea in tankers, So there is a limit to that. So all that is.
So the sanctions are working.
Yeah, I think the sanctions begin to be really implemented. I think the US and Europe are more serious about not letting all these oil export, because honestly, Russia, most of the Russia revenues are coming from oil, more than for gas. We speak a lot of gas, but in fact it's oil which is their source of revenues. So I see there some more stringent ways to have a round of sanctions, including from the US. So that, as I think, it's part of the explanation why we see this price not at 60, but more at $70, 70, 71.
But it doesn't really change how the industry is investing, does it?
No, we are not reacting like that. I think, you could have some. I think you have some players in particular which are more short cycle players, like U.S. shale oil producers, small independent ones which are maybe more reactive to the oil price, but not the major companies. I think we have some certain way we invest for a medium long term, not for immediate investments.
Yeah. So on Venezuela, that was really not a country that TotalEnergies was particularly engaged in.
We were until 22. We were a large player there. We have built historically in 2000, 2002, 200,000 barrels per day. And we know what it is to invest in Venezuela, because it's not only producing oil which is a sort of very heavy oil. That's quite easy to produce the oil, but it's not enough. You need the infrastructure. You need upgraders to transform, to be able to transport the heavy oil. And so we had built that complex.
Was it in the Orinoco?
In the Orinoco. It was called Cinco and Petrocedeño, and we have been there until 2022. And honestly, the 200,000 barrels per day became at the end 30,000 barrels per day, and because the system was not maintained. And in fact, we left because of safety audits. We were together with Equinor, by the way, and we received a safety audit, which was quite tough, telling us that the upgrader, which is a big machine, an upgrader is a coker, it's not a small refinery, it's a big refinery, was in a situation where maintenance, there was only one big turnaround in 15 years, in fact, and it was becoming critical. So we have decided to leave, because to maintain that was a risk for the company. And by the way, what I understood after we left, is that the upgrader has supported an explosion, so it's not good to say. So in fact, when we speak about Venezuela oil, it's not only producing oil in wells, it's also having the world system, and you need to put in place some diluent between and to have, if you want to transport that. So that's why I'm a little. And so today for us, first we had an experience which was not so positive, when you have invested billions and then you left some of them behind you. So you take some lessons. It's the only country, I've been in this industry for almost 30 years, where we have been nationalized.
Right.
The only country in 30 years where we had this nationalization of our assets, a forced nationalization. It was in 2006-07 under Chavez. Right. So you keep that in mind, And so when you have the planet is round, it's finished, but you have opportunities, And so for me, it's a matter of, do I rush to make this opportunity or not? And today, I have plenty of opportunities to grow my oil production, and just added Namibia. We have
tell us about Namibia.
So I don't need Venezuela immediately today to rush. And by the way, it does not fit as well too much with our commitment to produce with less emissions.
Right. So
Namibia is a much more attractive business, to be honest. When you speak to me, we have just announced a very important deal with Galp, where we have doubled down on business. So today we are the largest player. Right. We have almost 1.5 to 2 billion barrels of oil to be developed. So with the first project, Venus, then the second one, Mopane, we hope, and we are working in a good spirit with the Namibian authorities to be with the objective we set ourselves is to sanction first projects in 26 and then to have the second one 28. So it could be a new story. It's clearly a province, plenty of hydrocarbons. Yes. There is probably a lot of gas as well. There is a lot of gas. And honestly, so I'm very happy to be the number one player and to be able to be the company which will help this country to make this oil industry becoming a reality for them.
Right. So let me turn to the United States, and this is either a trick question or I think you know the answer to it. What company is the fifth largest producer of renewable electricity in the United States? Just take a guess.
It's us, but
Total.
I'm proud of that, but I'm more proud because we are the number one company in terms of U.S. energy export in 25. We have exported in 25 19 million tons of LNG out of a production around 110 million tons. We are number one. We have 18% of U.S. energy was exported by TotalEnergies. By the way, most of it, 14 million tons to Europe.
Right.
So we are making the bridge. We are the whole company which makes this bridge between the US and Europe. When we speak about security of supply and etc., energy dominance, we are a player, part of it. We are one of the instruments. So I'm proud of it. So number one in LNG exports, and number 5 in renewables, and more than renewables, because in the US we have also acquired some gas-fired power plants. And in fact, when I'm looking to that, it's more electricity. Renewables is one way to produce electricity. Right. It's a nice way, but it's intermittent. It could be quite efficient, by the way, today. We just announced 10 days ago a new agreement with Google for 1 gigawatt data center. By the way, most of it is coming from solar in Texas. So, it's we make the combination, and when I'm discussing with Chris Wright, I told him, look, the best way today to answer to their immediate ask for demand quickly, solar is quite efficient. You can build a solar plant of 1 gigawatt in Texas in 24 months. It's quicker than a new gas-fired power plant.
So just tell us a little more about your integrated power business in the U.S., how it works.
It works well. We have more than 10 gigawatt of capacity now, so it's a combination again of a lot of solar, wind, solar. We have also some wind machine, because we have 2 vehicles. One is ourselves, 100% TotalEnergies, but we develop mainly in the ERCOT market, in fact, around Texas, where we make the combination of gas and renewables. And then we have another vehicle called Clearway, which is a company, which is a listed company, but we own 50% with 50-50 with GIP, with BlackRock. So these 2 vehicles are developing our position in the US, and we are fine with it, and we continue to develop it. And by the way, our projects, we have a pipeline of projects up to 2029, which is completely fiscally safe harbored. Right. So we'll continue to deploy our capital. I'm fine. That's true for onshore solar, onshore wind. It is not true for offshore wind. Right. But offshore wind, we have a discussion today with the administration. Frankly, in the US, the lesson that I draw, and we had some concession, we had to, is that honestly, when you make the cost-merit curve, it's not a matter of religion, it's a matter of just economy. When you look at cost-merit curve and you know the way to produce electricity in the US, offshore wind is quite high in the cost-merit curve. So in fact, for us, allocating capital, equity capital to offshore wind in the US is not the best way to produce electricity today. So we prefer to concentrate on the more traditional way, gas-fired power plants and onshore solar and wind.
And how much of this is oriented now towards this data center boom?
We have done 60 terawatt hours. The beauty of it is that we have a premium, because they are so angry for capacity of supply that when we sign a PPA, we can get a premium compared to the traditional one. So it's a good market for us.
Right. So it'd be the culture of an energy business, you do something, it takes 5 or 6 years to do something. The tech companies have a very different culture and mindset. Has that been an interesting interaction?
Yeah, but yes, an interesting interaction, but they have to learn that we are the one which supply energy, So right. We know. No, in fact, and the beauty of it when you engage with Google, for example, and or AWS, is that we need to have a sort of more strategic approach, a longer-term approach, because they are not developing only data centers in the US, but also, for example, we have signed a contract in Malaysia.
Oh, because I was going to ask about that.
So it's also the global footprint. So a company like us, we are offering them a sort of potential strategic partnership. That's true that they were a few years ago quite transactional, I would say, trying to put competition. Today, because of their huge demand, they are more looking to what could be the different partner which could ensure for them a sort of continuous pipeline. And so, for example, one of the things we have done in Texas with Google, not only we have given them access to a big solar plant, 1 gigawatt, but also to land. And we are acquiring more land, and the land which is connected to the grid for them as a big value. And we have, in fact, negotiating with regulators, not only the capacity to inject in the grid, but also to take out of the grid in order to have a security of supply for their data centers. So right. Google will have the option to build another data center on our land, right. Which is good for us because then we are more in a sort of B2B, beyond the meter dynamic, and it offers capacity to grow our business.
Right. So I think if we look at the range of companies, for the most part, Total has been quite unique in being able to be in the power business and stay in the power business in a very steady way while also doing the oil and gas business. What has differentiated TotalEnergies?
I think today, because first, Because fundamentally, we believe in oil and gas. You know, when I'm looking to all, I know there are plenty of scenarios, but at the end, I observe it's 1% growth of oil. I see that LNG is a growing market. There is a huge amount of gas resource on the planet. It's quite flexible. The more we look at it, it's a perfect complement to renewables, the intermittency. So gas, we see that. So we have built and we have kept our stance and becoming the third largest LNG producer, coming here in the US in a large way again on LNG. We keep that stance, and we never committed to, because of climate change or I don't know what, to diminish oil and gas production. And by the way, one thing we have done, which is a good KPI, is that our reserve life index of proven reserve is still above 12 years, like Exxon. Number two, we are the largest two. The others have done through 8 years. So we continue to do it. And we continue to do it for another reason. It's that, you know, I'm not a magician. If I want to invest $4 billion per year in our electricity business, I need to generate the cash flows from my mainstream business, which is oil and gas. So yes, and at the same time, we have decided to build this electricity business. Why? Because again, when we're looking to the demand and all the scenarios, whatever they are, the growing demand is electricity is growing for more than 3% per year. So that's a constant of all that. And by the way, it's accelerated today by data centers and all that. So it's a source of transportation. Some people don't like EV, but some of us like EV. It's a fact. We have more transportation electrified. It's also climatizations in many emerging countries. You know, when people reach a certain level of wealth, they want to be climatized. It's quite, and it's at the end of this new digitization.
By climatizing, you mean the air conditioning?
Air conditioning, yeah, climatization, air conditioning, sorry. And also because when you want to decarbonize industry, it's electrification, which is as well. So you have a big market for electricity. And this is what we want to address. The link, by the way, is gas to power. So our traditional world is able to produce electricity.
So that's part of the foundation of this.
It's the foundation of the strategy. And in fact, for us, it's also a way to add more value on the gas value chain. You know, we are not just gas producer and liquefactor and seller. We can transform these molecules into electricity. It's a different business. A different market. In Europe, the gas price, the electricity price is not only linked to gas, it's also linked to the CO2 price. So you have a different dynamic. And in fact, this electricity business is also more resilient. It does not follow the same cycles than oil and gas. So for a company like us, we see that as a good complement. There is a logic. And I know that we are the only one today. We continue to do it, but it's growing business. It's 10% of the company. Will be 20% in 2030. It's profitable. Right. People say it's not profitable. No, it's profitable. Right. If you make it like we've done in an integrated way, which means we produce, we store, we trade, we distribute to customers, we go to the end customers, B2B, B2C. We make 10% return on our capital employed in our electricity business. We have $25 billion of capital employed, so it's becoming a big business. And we make 2.5, 2.6. And in 2026, 27, probably 26, this business will become net cash positive. So we'll contribute to the dividend to shareholders.
Right, and I guess the growth of the data centers has really accelerated. That part of the business.
Yeah, it has accelerated. In particular, also our view of again the importance of flexible assets, because what these customers what they want is a security of supply. They want a very high reliability, but you cannot just ensure with renewables. So you need to be able to combine all these assets.
Right. Well, let me go from electrons and molecules to the larger context of that. What have you observed over the last couple of years and how thinking has changed about the energy transition, not just in the United States, but even in Europe and other parts of the world?
I think today, in fact, these policy makers, they understood that sustainability was dominating completely the debate of energy from 2015 to 2022. With the events in Russia, suddenly we rediscovered that any energy policy is a trilemma. It's security, reliability, it's sustainability, and it's affordability. And in fact, to be honest, I always conclude that the most important pillar of the trilemma is the affordability.
Right, which is, of course, an issue.
And this is, of course, for anybody. And today in Europe, in the US as well, by the way, look, the affordability of electricity is becoming a political debate.
I think we'll hear about it tonight in the State of the Union.
But it's a reality. And in fact, I think for me, the lesson I draw for the last 5 years, including in Europe, is that you will not impose a transition by regulation because just you want it. If the customers at the end, they don't want to buy your EV because it's too expensive, you are back to revisit your regulation and to smooth it, And so the pace of the transition will be clearly dictated by the capacity that we will have to deploy this low-carbon technology at an affordable price. Right. And that will require time, that will require scale. And so that's, for me, very fundamental. And so today, the conclusion for us is that we are investing, yes, in low-carbon energies, in particular, again, electricity, but because we see that we can produce it at an affordable price for the customer. Offshore wind in the US today is too expensive. So why should I continue to invest in something if it's too expensive for the customers? And I think this is a lesson. There are not infinite capacity of investment of capital. We need to be efficient. And to combine, yes, we need to produce more energy, but with less emissions. With this algorithm, you will find a pace. Maybe it's not a perfect rush to net zero, for sure. So the debate, even in Europe, is much more
Well, I wanted to
balanced.
ask you, so tell us how you see discussion with governments and the publics changing in Europe.
With governments, I think, behind the door, they are very pragmatic. When they are collectively, I don't know what happens when they go to Brussels together. I don't know if there is a special atmosphere, a special smoke there. Suddenly, why? Because they have committed so much in this Green Deal. Yeah. They took such a huge effort in a rush that it's very difficult for them to unwind it. So they do it by making what they call omnibus, which is supposed to be a simplification. But unfortunately, when you try to amend something by simplifying, you make it more complex. Okay. I mean, that's the difficulty of it. For a lawmaker, it's super complex to simplify. Either you just delete and you give up. And this is our call today. For European CEOs, we say to the government, you need to be able to accept, to just look to this piece of legislation as being wrong, some of them, and you need to just to eliminate them. And then let's rebuild it.
Do they hear you?
Slowly. But today there are some. You've seen probably last week there were some calls from Chancellor Merz, from President Macron, because the people who see that are the citizens, Yeah. And you see in the political debate in Europe today between different parties, the nationalist one, this question of energy price is at the core of the political debate.
Do you think
and so they see that as they need to do something. They need to do something. It's more complex to do what to do, and in particular, the European Parliament, for the time being, is not really completely on the same page.
Do you think that as they pushed ahead on these policies, they forgot to think about the affordability impact, but also the political impact?
Yeah, the political impact was completely... No, in fact, they were thinking that they were making the Green Deal because it was a political demand.
Right.
But I will ask you, you have your brain. Do you want a green energy? Do you want yes? We'll answer yes. Yeah. The second question, are you ready to pay for it? More.
A lot more or a lot more?
Or a lot more, no, even more. It's 80% say no. And this is the difficulty. So they have, and in our democracy, democracy is an interesting system in Europe where, at the end of the day, it's not the majority party which decides, because you never have one single majority party. It is more of the party which is in the middle, which in many democracies are the ecologists. So they make themselves are thinking, okay, we need to have these votes of the ecology, the young people, to attract them. So the Green Deal is born for that. So for them, we were answering to a political demand, but today the political demand has changed. Yeah. Because the war, the affordability, etc., is becoming the main topic. And that, unfortunately, you see some nationalist party taking this as a main argument today, because again, it's purchasing power. Europe has shifted fundamentally from year of unemployment to today the main topic is purchasing power. And these guys, they have a problem today. And so that's something which really needs to be rethinked. And I think if today you see some calls from Chancellor Merz in particular, it's because he's facing in Germany this type of political opposition.
Well, related to that is the question of the competitiveness of Europe. And TotalEnergies is headquartered in Europe. You see it in terms of deindustrialization and so forth. Maybe just give us a sense of how you see, how severe is this issue of competitiveness for Europe? I mean, at the same time, by the way, that they have to spend more on defense.
Yeah, but the issue is severe. We see it in the chemical industry. We are a large petrochemical player. We are obliged to shut down some plants in Europe today. And in particular, where there is something quite easy, where I signed a letter to the Commission together with the chairman of Siemens after a Franco-German summit, where we asked them to stop regulating, to stop this craziness of regulating everything is a problem today. And I think
Can you elaborate on that? Because people may not understand what that environment is of
regulatory, you have a lot of things, but you have to understand that the EU, in fact, it was a trade space, in fact. And they have no fiscal instruments, these countries. So the only way for them to exist is to regulate. Regulation, so but the flurry of regulations. And in particular, there is something which I think we convinced the Chancellor and the French President, which is they are not making technology neutral regulation. They are deciding what are the right technology, which is for me the major mistake.
Do they have the competence?
Huh?
They don't have the competence.
But no, they don't have. And in fact, honestly, a policymaker, you expect them to put a target in terms of emission, in terms of, what is the abatement you want to reach. But let's the innovation, let's the companies, let's the industries deciding what is the best way to reach it. When you decide that you make a sustainable, efficient fuels, in 2035, you will be obliged to produce 5% with e-fuels, which is the most expensive way on the planet to make a sustainable, efficient fuel. I don't know why you select one technology, You can do sustainable, efficient fuels with biofuels, with plenty of less expensive ways to produce it, even for 20%. So the fact that they want to dictate a technology, I think is a big mistake, and it's not, I think, for me, the mission of a policymaker to decide the technology. Let's trust innovation and European companies or others to do it.
So do you see, it's so much on the agenda, the lack of competitiveness of Europe. You see a lot of words about it. And you guys are writing letters. Do you see it having an impact yet? Is the course changing?
Slowly. In fact, there are some few symbolic decisions to make some administrative burden a little lighter. But fundamental change, no, not yet. So it's why we claim it. But the reality is that at the end, we take actions. I was discussing with Jim Ratcliffe from INEOS. He gave me a list of, there was 100 chemical plants which were shut down in Europe in the last 2 years. So that's the reality of what is happening. And I think policymakers is not about speech. At the end, the corporations, the CEOs, they have to act. And that, I'm worried about the impact it will have. You can speak about sovereignty if you are losing your chemical industry, which is about material. What is it about? So we keep thinking about sovereignty. So I think it's a question to wake up. It takes time because, again, our system is our democratic system is quite slow, heavy, and we don't have one federal country like the US who can decide in the night what to change,
So one last question before we wind up. As you say, you are the largest exporter of U.S. LNG now. Just how you see your expectations for the LNG market over the next few years?
I think I'm quite clear about it. You have a big wave of new capacity, 250 million tons. So again, I'm not worried because it will find its market. By the way, Europe itself was importing 60 million tons of LNG in 21. We'll import in 27 around 150 million tons because the Russian gas will be completely banned. So in fact, a new market of the 90 million tons came. It's for US LNG mainly, because today 60% of the US LNG imported in Europe is coming from the US. It will be more. So this is new. Then China continued to absorb some LNG because domestic production does not follow the demand. India is a market where you have plenty of infrastructures. It will be absorbed, but of course, it will be a low cycle. I'm no doubt about it. Today we are still in a good place. We are at $10, $11 per million BTU of gas in Europe. It's a good price for LNG. I think we'll go down, $8. Historically, it was even down to $6, so it will come. But again, this is good for the demand. It will create a new demand, in particular in a country like Asia, Southeast Asia. So it's cyclical, so I'm not worried about that. But again, there is place to make more, so we'll do see. And when the price will be done, everybody will stop investing. So you will create a new cycle up again. So
it's called cycles.
It's part of the game, and so it's a good business, and happy to be again a major player in the U.S. to participate with this U.S. LNG.
Patrick, on behalf of the Atlantic Council, let me thank you for joining us, both with the audience here today and those who are watching streaming. Please join me in expressing our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you.